Thank you, Allison. I was going to say good afternoon to everyone, but there may be a couple of good mornings in there. So good afternoon or good morning. I'm really thrilled to be offering a little bit of my experience on dealing with agency partnerships, as it's a great way to distribute diapers, and many of you may do that already. What I was hoping I could do is maybe if anyone would like to share if they had any specifics of what they hoped to get from this presentation to make sure that we cover all of the topics of interest. I can't hear anything.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Allison. I'm just breaking for a moment because obviously there's a good reason I left the technology field. I just wanted to introduce everyone to Janet Stolfi Alfano, our guest speaker today. She is the executive director of the National Diaper Bank, of the Diaper Bank in Connecticut, and a board member of the National Diaper Bank Network. Janet has been with the Diaper Bank here in Connecticut since 2007, and the Diaper Bank of Connecticut is one of the largest diaper banks in the country, serving 66 agencies throughout the Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, and Hartford areas of Connecticut. So Janet has extensive experience with agencies. So I apologize for the this kind of odd introduction, but what I meant to say was, Janet, go ahead and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I don't think I need to redo that whole thing that I did, but I would just say that I'm really honored to be presenting and hopefully can offer a little bit of insight as to how to best work with agencies through which you can distribute more diapers to more families in need and hopefully raise the visibility of your diaper bank in your community. And I started to say before we get started, did anyone have any very specific things that they hope to get from this presentation before we get started? And Allison,
hi, this is Liz Sutherland, Happy Bottom.
Oh, hi. I just want to make sure you weren't on mute. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that one of the things I'm most interested in, we only work through agencies, but I wanted to just hear if there were any types of agencies that other diaper banks think they would not choose. So really, trying to figure out who do you deselect rather than select.
Okay, great. There is a slide that relates a little bit to that, but I can make sure that we sort of cover that topic for you. Thank you for that. Are there any others? Okay, great. Well, then we'll get started. So again, this is called Getting the Most Out of Your Agency Partnerships. And one thing that I will say is that we've always used agencies through which to distribute diapers. And while we think we have a really good system, there are other systems that work. So please just take my my advice as just the experience that I've had, and there may be others out there, and we certainly reevaluate how we work with our agencies really to make it better. Okay. Again, this is just a brief overview of our agenda. Finding and selecting your partner agencies, forming relationships with them, which really is key, and then managing existing relationships. And I hope to not read the entire slide presentation to you all, so if I do that, please someone text someone or email someone to tell me to stop doing that. That is not my intention. So why distribute diapers to agencies and not individuals? Really, if you think about it, just the sheer logistics of it. Our diaper bank in Connecticut has distributed diapers to about 4,000 children each month for many years. But we do it through 66 agencies. So our relationship only needs to be directly with the 66 agencies, which is so much easier to manage than 4,000 people. We just don't have the capacity as a staff of 4 to be able to have 4,000 families coming into our office to get diapers. It's simply a logistical, there's a logistical ease to working with the agency. So that's really that's kind of the no-brainer. But the second, and I think sort of the more important piece of that, is that the agencies that we partner with are already serving families who serve low income, who have low income or who have, dire needs in the community. And they're providing really valuable services to those families. And some of the families may be somewhat reluctant to receive the services. They may be court mandated, or they may be distrustful of traditional social service agencies. The diapers can often be used as an incentive to facilitate the family getting some needed assistance that they really may be in dire need of. There is a program in Connecticut called the Nurturing Families Program. And it's basically a home visitation program where families that may be at risk get identified at the hospital, and they are set up with services. And I'm sure that there are many examples of this throughout the country, but this is one really great example of how diapers can be used in partnership with an agency. The Nurturing Families workers make home visits typically once a week, and many of the workers use the diapers as kind of an icebreaker to really get in the door and then to provide further services that that new mom who might be at risk may need. Excuse me. We also work with other different types of agencies, like traditional ones that you might think of, like food pantries where they're already getting food, and so they just add diapers as a part of what they're giving to clients. But also there are some drug rehab programs, some shelter programs, really kind of a broad range. But it's used to really enhance the existing services that those agencies do provide. The next slide, who are your partner agencies? So again, this is a little bit repetitive, but they are the agencies that you choose that you want to distribute diapers through. And how you would go about doing this, and if you're brand new, this might be a little bit trickier, but what I would suggest is look at the organizations that deal with poverty-related issues or community issues, like, for instance, a United Way in your community, or a local community foundation, a grant-making institution that is giving funds to those very agencies that are reaching the families that you'd like to reach. Once you do your own research or research with one of those groups, they can actually help you to identify really the best agencies through which you'd like to distribute diapers. That is really key, particularly if you're somewhat newer to this type of work, because those agencies will have a proven track record, and you really will know which of the agencies are the easiest to work with. It's really a partnership and a collaboration, and you really need to ensure that it's a positive relationship, because each of your reputations will rely somewhat on that relationship. Okay. Another thing you might want to consider when choosing your agencies, and again, you could use those same sort of foundation folks or United Ways in your community to figure this out. What agencies have the greatest need for the diapers? What agencies in your community serve, the neediest populations? Or is there a specific population that you wish to work with, like, say, teen moms? We, in Connecticut, through our diaper bank, we actually partner with the New Haven Public High School, and they have a program to help teen moms stay in school, and we actually distribute diapers to that program. So if there is a particular interest, or in your community, if there's sort of a buzz around a certain community issue or community problem that diapers can easily be matched with, that would be a great entree for your diaper bank to consider the partnership of one of those agencies. For a couple of reasons. One, obviously the need is there, but two, it may really put you, it really may get the funder's attention, and that is something that would benefit both you and the agency. You also do want to consider the track record of the agencies through which you partner. So, for instance, do they have a few years worth of results? Some of you may be familiar with results-based accountability. In Connecticut, it's really popular. Actually, our state government now requires it for anyone who's trying to get funding. But basically, are they looking at their outcomes? Are they tracking their results? And are they positive results? And then also, in the last point here, which agencies have indicated an interest. This may seem like, obvious. Of course, agencies would have an interest, but not necessarily, because there is a bit of, some logistical challenges involved in that in terms of storing the diapers and, wanting to or having the ability to report regularly. These things all can make, our jobs as diaper banks trickier if there really isn't buy-in from the agency in terms of adding the diapers to what they already do. Again, identifying specific agencies, we talked a bit about that in terms of the track record in the community. It might not be best to partner with someone who's had some fairly negative financial situation going on, and that's been written about. There was recently not one of our agencies, but another agency, nonprofit in Connecticut, that had some financial troubles, and we would, of course, choose to not partner with them at this time, but it is something to at least be aware of within your own community. And then again, of course, clean, dry storage space, and actually clean, dry storage space that has an ability to be secure. In a lot of big agencies, people may not even realize that there's a special diaper bank program, and they might just say, oh, diapers for my client, great. So you really need to just make sure that it's secure as well. And then, again, will the agency be willing or able to report on, numbers that have gone out, keeping track of what sizes they will need, and, and to whom are the diapers going? We have our agencies keep a distribution log each month of who took the diapers in their agency. And then the last point, of course, the agency should have a good reputation with the public. So we've talked about a lot of the kind of expectations that we would want to have about partnering with agencies, but we also need to think about what we need to do in terms of getting ourselves prepared for having a partnership with an agency. Being able to articulate and describe certain aspects of your program. Any liability issues. And you actually may want to review this with a legal or insurance professional. There might be things that come up that you hadn't thought of before. Think about what other agencies that you have, and you have a theme with the type of agencies that you partner with, and is this new agency in line with what you hope to accomplish with your diaper bank? You really should be able to explain in detail your record-keeping requirements, and not only explain them, but really adhere to them. So, if for some reason you haven't been keeping up to date and telling your agencies, that they needed reporting due, and then you come down the pike 5 months and say we need all these 5 months worth of reporting, that's not really fair to the agency. And I am speaking from experience with that one. And then, making sure that your staff is really trained. And really, trained to a level that they know your program inside and out. They know their requirements. They're comfortable with the agencies. They're comfortable with referring clients to the agencies. Just making sure that they know all there is to know about the ins and outs of your diaper bank. And just other basic logistical items like, are you going to have folks pick up at your agency? Do you do any delivering? And then that delivering piece adds really a whole other layer of logistics that you really want to make sure that you keep on top of it, and make sure that your staff is aware of all of all of the ins and outs, the times, the reporting requirements, and so forth. Again, in talking about reporting requirements for agencies, really it's just good practice to let the agencies know ahead of time what you're going to be requiring from them. You know, what are you going to have an order system? Will there be sort of a time frame on that? That really has worked well for us, and we've been tightening up on that kind of thing, setting up dates so that at the beginning of the year, agencies know throughout the year when they'll need to have orders in, when there's reporting due, when we'd be making deliveries, or when they can pick up diapers from us. And the number of diapers per child that you'll be distributing, you know, max per agency. We actually have set a maximum number of diapers per agency based on a point-in-time census of the number of children that agency serves in our targeted age range. And then also being able to collect demographic information. And this one, while it may seem like asking for a lot, it is really, really important in order to help you get grant funding. And if you explain that to your agencies, you know, we haven't had anyone not be willing to do that. And quite frankly, at this point in time, we would not partner with an agency who wasn't willing to get that for us. We are really giving them a valued commodity, and you know, what we ask in return is just a little bit of information, you know, that we don't share only in its aggregated form to our funders and to folks who are potential funders who can help us continue to provide this valuable service in our community. And again, important, this is quite important. The Diaper Bank's success depends on having strong relationships with its partner agencies. I can't stress that enough. And we are really at a point where not only having strong relationships, but really at a point where, you know, what else can we do? What can we be doing better? How can we promote the great work that our agencies are doing, and at the same time promoting our work? So we really try to keep that as strong as possible and keep it going. We know that there's areas that we can improve. But your profile in the community will be enhanced by dealing with agencies that are working to, you know, to help low-income families, which is actually what the second point says pretty much. But it enhances your reputation, it enhances the work that the agency is doing, and then it will put you in a little bit of the limelight in terms of funding and, you know, possibly media, which I'm sure many of you have already had that experience, and other like-minded anti-poverty groups, you know, that focus on poverty on a broader scale. Bear with me for just a sec. My slide is a little bit stuck. Okay, great, here we go. So here, a couple of key questions. Again, really just reiterating the kinds of things that you want to be thinking about when thinking about or when enhancing your existing agency relationships. What criteria are you going to use to identify and recruit partner agencies? And actually, this speaks somewhat to the question that Liz posed earlier. And what I would say in terms of types of agencies, you know, who would you not choose? I would say that there, you know, I can't think of a broad category that we would automatically sort of, you know, cross off the list. But, you know, the requirements being, you know, it's a 501c3 or a faith-based or a church in good standing, I guess the main thing I would say about who you would not choose, really, we visit each of our potential agencies along with having them submit an application. What I would say is that you really need to do your own due diligence on each individual agency. You don't want to partner with an agency who, who sort of makes people do things for the diapers, or, while we use our diapers as an incentive, we certainly don't, say you have to do something in order to get the diapers, or someone who has a bad reputation in the community, of course, would not necessarily be a good match. That would be the broadest category I can give. But you really have to build the relationship, and it's something that you have to be comfortable with because it's, hopefully going to be long-lasting, and you'll be in contact with them frequently. So, it really has to be something that you're going to be comfortable dealing with on a month-to-month, week-to-week basis, if that is the case for your diaper bank. And then who on the staff will be responsible for recruitment? Again, just identifying that person and making sure that it's consistent. It is good to have sort of, it is sometimes good to have two people at least be reviewing either potential applications for agencies or even going on the site visit. I find that, what one person might deem as more important, someone else might say, well, wait a minute, it's just good to have two perspectives when thinking about these partnerships because they are so valuable. And how can the board of directors be used to help identify and recruit? That's really an interesting one. So it really depends on your board and what their level of professional expertise is, because quite frankly, you as a diaper bank staff will be probably the most knowledgeable about that within your own community. But if you know on your board that you have someone who's very involved in the community or in serving low-income families, then you may identify them as a resource. And again, I think that the best way to go is contact that other anti-poverty groups. They are certainly your best bet in terms of identifying and recruiting recipient agencies. They also probably have a lot of insight as to the reputation of the agency and possibly the financial stability of the agency. I think that's the best way to go. And then in thinking about materials or brochures that might aid in agency recruiting efforts, I guess really just an explanation of why diapers are important and how they can help the agency fulfill their own mission while at the same time helping us get diapers to more families. And honestly, I don't think anyone will have too much trouble in recruiting agencies. I mean, we get applications, still we get them weekly. Should partner agencies be charged a user fee? And what are the pros and cons? So this is something that on our board, I believe we have gone back and forth on since our inception. We have some board members who are very passionate on one side and some on the other. And it is still something that we struggle with. Of course, there are pros and cons. The ones who may be able, the agencies who may be able to pay the fee, that's great. But the ones who might need the service the most are probably the agencies who are serving the clients who are most at need. So and then the administrative task of handling, the idea of fees for agencies, it adds a layer of work really to probably, I'm going to guess, most diaper banks have a very small staff. So that's really something to consider when doing that. Again, in terms of agency applications, and I'm sure the National Network has some examples of agency applications that they can share if you're interested, if you need them. Again, this is stuff that we've sort of gone over, but best practice is working with already established agencies that are 501c3s or a faith-based organization. Developing a standard operating procedure for reviewing and accepting is really, really important. For a couple of reasons. One, it just streamlines your own workflow, but also in terms of the community, understanding that the process is fair, so that if you are inundated with applications from potential agency members, if you don't have a streamlined process that's transparent, then agency folks may feel unfairly declined, or there's only so many diapers that you all can give out, and agencies that you'd be able to accept to work with. So you really have to think about having a transparent process. And then having agencies sign an agreement outlining requirements for agency participation. So this one is really interesting, and it's one that we are just honestly working on now. While we have our agencies sign an application in the beginning, we haven't necessarily required anything of our agencies in terms of their participation in our events, or even as much as talking about diapers or talking about the diaper bank when they're applying for their own grants. And that is something that we are working on currently, because we really want it to be a reciprocal arrangement. Instead of us just giving diapers to this agency, we do really want them to promote what we do as well, because we know that it enhances what they do, and they are helping us reach more families that way. And again, the point that I'll highlight here is just maintain a file on each of the agencies with the signed copy of the application and 501c3 status, and keeping the reporting, whether you do it paper or electronically. We've certainly had good luck with this. One thing that we find in terms of dealing with the agencies is that our contact people for the agencies change quite frequently. So that is one thing to keep note. Turnover in small nonprofits or nonprofit agencies in general is fairly high. So it is good to keep on top of your agency contacts. Again, this is the agreement piece of it, which we are working on as well, but thinking about documenting what is expected, what is required. Here's what you will do as a diaper bank, and here's what the agency needs to do. And that can be part of the application process. That's really a great way to do it, instead of how we're thinking about having to change it now, a few years in. And if for some reason your diaper bank is uncomfortable with having sort of a signed formal agreement, you can have just a manual and ask for agencies to read and acknowledge it. And that's how we started initially. Requirements for partner agencies. So we have set a distribution schedule and ordering schedule as well. We've talked about this a little bit earlier. In terms of your logistics, it will really help you be able to forecast your need for diapers throughout a specified period of time, whether it's month, year, however you obtain your diapers, whether it's strictly through drives, donations, or are you buying diapers in bulk at all. Doing this will really help you to keep track in a way that you can forecast what you'll need. And then ask for, of course, regular reporting from the agency, where the diapers are going, who's getting them. As we said earlier, this is really something that is going to help you. I can't stress enough, getting the demographic information will help you tremendously in getting grants and reporting back to the donors. And this relationship is not unlike any other relationships that you have in your life. It's really something that you have to keep on, and it's something that we, work on. You really are, it really is a relationship, and hopefully you are able to, get the agencies what you promise, and they in turn can get you what they promise, which is mostly the reporting and the demographic information. I can't tell you enough how it's wonderful to have great relationships with agencies in the community. We really, at our diaper bank, we really strongly encourage it. and we have what's called an agency advisory committee, where we have, it's open to any of our agencies, but we have a core group of about 12 to 15 who meet every other month, and we really just discuss, you know, not only what's going on with our reporting and logistics and so forth, but, you know, how are the clients being impacted, you know, by the services that the agency delivers, but also by, you know, the economy. As I don't need to say to any of you, you know, most low-income families are really being hit the hardest. And we're seeing new people who have never had to deal with any kind of social service, and they don't know what to do. So it's sort of working through all those issues with the agency partners, and they are able to help us think of better ways that we can serve them, and in turn, you know, they are able to really get us what we need so that we can really make the case for more funding for this valued basic need. Again, this just speaks to sort of this reciprocal agreement. Agencies are willing to partner with you because, you know, you provide the diapers, and you need to be able to provide on what you have agreed to with the agencies. So, you know, we always, I'm sure there are many of you who have been doing this for a little bit, and some much longer, but when we have spoken to folks in the past who are interested in starting, we always say, please start small, because it is so, it's tricky to be able to raise the number of diapers that you're going to need for a small group, never mind, you know, a group of agencies. So don't commit to providing more than you can. Again, start small and grow as you can increase your funding stream and add capacity, not only in your finances, but also, you know, your staff. And then think about really holding to a specific number via agency, but a specific number that you're willing to distribute, you know, in a specific time frame, whether it's 1,000 diapers a week, whether it's 5,000 a month, whatever that number is, so that you're able to meet that need and then really forecast going forward. And of course, the last point, overcommitment and an inability to deliver will damage your reputation and spell the end. We have on our board, our past treasurer always used to say, we can give all of our diapers out in a week and go out of business. You know, just reminding us that we really always have to be aware of our numbers, and that is really an important part of what we do, because we don't want to leave our families, quite frankly, without any diapers. So we need to make sure that they can last. Agencies and you, a partnership. I love the title of this one. Again, it's just reinforcing this idea. The agencies are your partners, and they, you know, many of them, while diapers aren't their main thing, they understand that this is a need that their clients have, and that, you know, they're working with the same families that you are. So your reputation in the community will be better informed in working with the agencies, and you're all working towards the same goal. And this next one, consider collaborating with agencies in grant applications, is such a great one, and we are starting to think about that more, and asking our agencies to think about that more, to say, you know, when you're applying for a grant, please include a line item for diapers. It's a great way, you know, it doesn't have to be, it might not be a big amount of money, but it'll start the agencies thinking about, and then in turn, funders will see that line item for diapers, and they'll start thinking about that this is something that they should fund. And always give credit to the agency partners and the great work that they do. The agencies that we work with are wonderful. I can't talk enough about the incredible work that they do, and honestly, their staff of the agencies is inspiring, and it makes my job so much more fun and fulfilling. Communication. So once you have everything started and everything set up, and we talked about this a bit, but it doesn't end there. What we did is form an advisory board, but another thing, and even more importantly, is really keeping someone in constant contact with the agency. We try to, at least once a month, get in contact with each of our agencies, whether it's a little email or a phone call, even if it's just, we got your order, thanks, a little something just to make sure that we are checking in, are there any problems? I have a program director who does the majority of that, but occasionally I will also, just send out a quick email saying, how's everything going? Is there something that we can do? We know the economy is tough, and many of our agencies, had lost some funding, so, is there something that we can do to help, spread the word about the great work that you do? And getting feedback about your own program, of course, is important. And again, using your agencies to expand your network. So we have a broad variety of agencies, one of which is it's a food bank that's actually in a hospital, which in our region is fairly rare. And that opens up sort of a whole new world of funding opportunities and people who will hear about diapers that would not normally hear about it. So that's just an example of how your agencies can really broaden your network. And of course, folks in the anti-poverty community you'll get to know, but then even small programs in larger institutions like, say, a hospital setting or some other small program in a larger setting, those folks might not necessarily have a primary focus of poverty, but it will also bring diapers to their attention. And of course, ask your agencies to acknowledge your contribution. And we talked about adding line item for diapers in their grant requests. So interestingly now, there's so many ways for agencies to acknowledge your contribution, whether it's in an official thank you, if they put it on Facebook or highlight you in social media. That's been really great for us, is having our agencies kind of talk about the work that we're doing on their own Facebook pages, or what we're hoping to do is get more agencies to talk about us in their newsletters or at some company meetings. Getting speaking engagements from your partner agencies is really a wonderful way to spread the word to a new audience. Lessons learned. Again, communicating often, we've stressed that a lot because it's really, really important. Communicating often in terms of reporting, but also in terms of enhancing that relationship with your agency partners. And if an agency is really not holding up their end of the bargain, whether it's reporting, whether they're not giving as many diapers as you would like, you really need to hold them accountable. Because there's another agency out there who probably serving the same families who would be willing to do those things, and you need to just make sure that agencies are doing what they say they're going to be doing, because it's going to reflect badly on you if you don't. And in conclusion, again, agencies are usually the connection through which you would deliver diapers to the individuals. It'll reflect, your relationship with the agency will reflect your reputation in the community. That cannot be stressed enough. Select those agency partners with care and reevaluate. And that's something that we really haven't done as well as we could. But we are starting to do that more now because the need is so great. We have to really be selective, unfortunately, and then make sure that everyone understands what's expected of them, whether it's the diaper bank and the staff or the agency. What are the reporting requirements? When am I going to get diapers? How many can I expect? And it is best to put that in writing if at all possible.
Thanks so much, Janet. We have one question regarding the line items for diapers and their grant requests. Would you then request that your agencies make those funds available to you to purchase diapers?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yes, absolutely. So that actually came up quite recently, where we had a collaborator in the community, and they were writing a grant and wanted to write a line item for diapers, and they actually asked, well, when we do the line item, should we put it that it's to the diaper bank, or should we go buy the diapers ourselves? And of course, I said to the diaper bank, and for a couple of reasons. One, we actually buy in bulk, so it's a little bit cheaper for us. But whether or not that's the case for your agency, please tell them to give it to you. And whether you're buying in bulk or not, it's important, one, for the name of your diaper bank to be in that grant application, and also I lost my train of thought. But yeah, it is important for the diapers to go through the diaper bank, really for the name recognition alone. I think it's important.
This is Joanne. I hope it's okay if I add something. First, thank you, Janet. That was really, really interesting. Sometimes when we talk about asking the diaper banks, the agencies to add a line item, we're not necessarily asking for that to be funded. So sometimes that's not a part of the money that they're asking for. So that's one thing, and what Janet said, absolutely. If they're actually getting money for diapers, you want that in the community, everything having to do with diapers to run through you. But we also ask them to add a line item in their general budget that they put in with their grants or show to any funding sources so that people know money is being spent on diapers. Because one of the issues that exists is that people don't think of it. Funders don't see this as something agencies are spending money on. So I just thought that was an important part of it as well.
Thank you.
It's Joanne again. I'm really sorry. I just wanted to say, though, that all of the things that Janet has talked about are just so important, but they're also just so hard. And the reason that we felt like it was so important to stress these things, and the reason, Janet is able to stress these things so well is because she's really worked through so many of these. So while there certainly are lots of other ways to do things in the community, in your own community you'll do things the way you see best, having really positive relationships has served the diaper bank here so incredibly well. And what Janet isn't saying about the work that she does is that she's incredibly flexible, and that sometimes you hear things from agencies that aren't what you want to hear. Maybe they'll tell you that something hasn't worked just right, or that there's an issue with a staff member or something. And being able to respond to that with a really, thanking people for their concern and their interest and their feedback, whatever that feedback is. We had an experience a few years ago which Janet and I would both like to block out of our heads, which is we had gotten some diapers that were not good. So let me just say this. If anybody ever offers to sell you diapers at $8 a piece and they'll deliver them all, you can be sure that they're probably going to be very much like the ones that we got, which were really bad. They were so bad that people wouldn't take them for free. And it really was hard for us in the community. And we got a lot of feedback that the diapers weren't good, but because of the really amazing relationships we had with people, we were able to repair that. So I just wanted to throw that in.
We have another question. How often do you request demographic information from your partner agencies?
That's a great question. So we, at the time that you get a new client, we ask for the client or the parent of the client to fill out a complete application with all the demographic information. At that one time during a year, our fiscal year is calendar year, so one time during a calendar year for any new client that comes on board.
And we post agency applications, and we'll post some of the reporting documents that Janet uses as templates that you guys can use as well. Do we have any other questions? we will put the presentation online. It will be posted on our website, on our webinar page. And thank you again, Janet, for coming. It was a terrific presentation. And thank you all for joining us. Have a good day.